Alrighty, back in the shed for another installation. And what have we got on the shelf today? What we're going to be installing is the Rock Lights by Stedi. Now, weirdly enough, I've had a few requests for this one. Now, I didn't think it would be something that was super popular. It's more of a Yankee thing, but you know what? I have always considered doing something like this myself. I remember seeing it in a magazine ages ago, and it was a Jeep that was up on like a real rocky section at night time. It was this ripper photo, but all around the Jeep was lit up and you could see all of the rocks in really high detail around where this Jeep was going up this track. And I thought then, I was like, that is a really awesome idea. I mean, for people that are spotting you around the car at night time and things like that, at least they can see what's going on underneath the car and around the vehicle as well and what's coming up. What tends to happen when you're off-roading, especially at night time, when the headlights are on, especially driving lights, and you've got really good distance out in front of you which you can see, you start getting tunnel vision. And that means that you just only focus on what's there in front of you, so you don't really focus on what's around you. Especially. So having a bit of light surrounding the vehicle is definitely a good thing. So yes, these are cool, and yes, they look awesome when you park up at the Coles car park and you throw them on disco mode. But they actually serve a really good purpose for off-roading. Not only what I've just mentioned as well, another thing that I've just thought of, when someone's driving up behind you as well, it's probably going to illuminate the track around you, so the person that's going up on that track after you can see sort of what's coming up as well. So if there's a big rock in the way, they're going to be able to see that rock as well, or a big drop or a big washout or something like that, going to be able to see it. So you're not only helping the spotter, yourself, but you're also helping the person behind you if you're in a convoy. So these lights have heaps of different options, guys, and really good idea of something to put on your car, and they're not extremely expensive. They don't cost a lot to do, and it's quite easy to do with the kit that I'm about to show you from Stedi Lights. They've made this really easy to install. Okay, so I'm thinking for the positioning of my lights themselves, I'm going to put 2 in the middle. So I've got 6 lights in total in this kit. So I'm going to put 2 in the middle sort of area here, and I'm going to have one of those lights shining towards the back of the vehicle, towards the back wheel, and then the other one's going to be going down here towards the front wheel. So I'm going to try and light up both front and back wheels, and try and maybe point them out a little bit as well, so they kind of shine out as well as on the wheel, because they do have quite a good spread on these lights. So I'll try and illuminate that area. So that's 4, so 2 either side. And then I'm either going to put 2 up the front of the vehicle, so maybe on my skid plates on either side of the bull bar there, in a safer area if I can find one, to drop down either side of the car, which will also illuminate the front area as well. So that'll be good for myself and for spotters. I'll either do that, or I'll only put 1 up the front and then chuck 1 up the back, which up the back of the vehicle would be quite handy for spotters, and also people coming up behind me in a convoy, maybe, like what I was saying before. So I'll either put 1 at the back, 1 at the front, and 2 on the side, or 2 up the front and 2 on the sides. I'll try and figure that out as I go and have a bit of a think about it. I'm not really sure the best way to go. Alright guys, let's get stuck into the unboxing of these Stedi lights, and then we'll get stuck into the installation. Alrighty, so that's the box that it comes in. The instructions, a bit of information on these rock lights. These are the Stedi LED Rock Lights themselves. Got 6 in total in this kit, as you can see there, and they're housed nicely in this protective foam. Okay, and underneath that we have the mounting plates. So these are rubber. Okay, they're not metal, so they're moldable to the surface a little bit, which is fantastic. And in there we've got some plastic grommets there to go in the holes for when you put the bolts or the self-tapping screws through, and that's all supplied. So we've got all 6 in there. Okay, and then we've got the last piece of the puzzle is the actual wiring loom itself. And everything is supplied, like most of the Stedi stuff, it's all supplied in the box, so really don't make you have to get anything yourself, which is awesome. So pretty simple. We've got our earth and power strap there, that's to go onto the battery or whatever supply that you're using, and that is attached to the main harness here, which has an inline fuse ready to go with a fuse in there, and that is your switch, on and off switch, to toggle the rock lights. Now that switch is interchangeable. I have actually got myself a different switch to that one that fits into the center console area on the MP300. You can purchase that from Stedi as well. Then on this end of it, we've got the control box for the rock lights. Now that control box is IP66 waterproof rated, and on this end of it we have the splitter into the harnesses for each individual rock light. Now these are a screw type fitting, and they also have a seal on there to help with the waterproofing. So then we've got each individual rock light here. Now that's the rock light. It has a nice hard aluminium housing around the outside of it, and these are also waterproofed as well. So all good stuff there. Now each individual lead is different lengths. So that one's 3.5 meters, and I saw a 5 meter one there is one there. So that's 5 meters. So they're different lengths leads in case you need to go to the back of the vehicle. So we've got 3.5s over here, got another 5 meter there, 3.5 and a 5 meter. Okay, so we've got 3 of each. Rightio, so that is the unboxing now complete. So that is pretty much everything there laid out that comes in the kit. Now there is like the tiniest bit of sun poking through outside, and in Victoria in winter this is unheard of. So I'm going to put the nav outside, I've got it out there, and I'm going to do this work out there today. I reckon we're going to take it out of the workshop, going to get out in the front there, and how's it going, mate? Hey mate. Oh, mate's looking at us. Alright, so we're going to get out the front there of the garage, and we're going to do the install out in the driveway. Rightio, so what I'm going to do is I've got this square tube. I'm just going to basically cut it straight down one side of the tube, so cut it straight down there on the saw here, and that's basically going to give me 2 pieces of angle bracket which I can use to then go onto the chassis and mount the rock lights onto. Okay, so I've just put the Stedi light into its rubber mount, but when the lead comes through the bottom there, so you just feed the lead in through there, that's stretchy rubber, so you feed it through. Basically, there's nowhere for this lead to go. It's almost like it needs a hole in the bracket, which I could drill out, but what I'm going to do instead on these rubber mounts is I'm just going to take a small notch of rubber. It's quite easy to cut into with a blade. Just cut it off. That line can sit straight in there basically, and then when it's mounted up against a flat surface, like it will be, it'll come straight at the end there without obtruding on anything. Okay, so I'm just going to measure the rock light itself end to end. Okay, so it looks like they're about 70 mil long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my plates that I've just cut up, and I think they should be, from my measurements, they should be about 140. Yep, so a little bit of extra there. I've just left a couple of mil on the end just for extra cutting material. So that is pretty much 140. So if I cut down the center of that, that means I'm going to have exactly enough to mount these rock lights straight on. Alrighty guys, so I've just done the test for the brackets on the chassis for the rock lights. I'm really stoked with how they've come up. I reckon that's going to be absolutely mint. Now I've got the other 3 that I need to do over here. So that's the finished one there, that's completed. Well, I've just got to put some paint on it, but I'll do that once I've done the rest of them. And then I've got the other ones here, so I've just got to tap and drill them, sand them back to get a nice finish on the outside, paint them up, and then I'll put them all on the chassis rail with the rock lights and we'll start wiring it up. the spray. Rightio, so I've got the bolts there. Now I'm going to chop them down because they're quite long. I definitely don't need them to be as long as what they are. So I'm going to chop them down. Now, a quick tip, whenever you chop a bolt down, make sure you put a nut on the bolt first. So screw the nut down past the mark where you're going to be cutting it, okay? And what will happen then is if you do that, once you make the cut, then you'll take the nut off and that will re-thread the end of it as you pull the nut off. So that way you won't have a coarse thread on the end which you won't be able to screw a nut onto. So if you do that before you cut a bolt, you'll never have a problem. I've taken them down to 25 mil, pretty much about half of what they were. So that'll now give me enough length without having them too long and sticking through too far on the other side. Now this could differ depending on your application, but for me, that's as much length as I'll need to get it through to the other side and get a nut on there, no worries at all. How's it going, man?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Cheers, dude. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
I don't always Uber Eats, but when I do, I get a jumbo kebab and a large chips. So I painted up those brackets. I had them in the paint room. They weren't drying because Melbourne sucks. And then I put them outside in the sun and they still weren't drying. So what I've done, I've turned the heater on in the car, I've turned it into an oven. I've cranked it on the foot heater, down the bottom, the good old foot heater. And those brackets are now finally starting to dry up with the heater cranking. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the side plates off the bull bar, mark them out and drill some holes ready to mount the rock lights on either side. So I'm not going to mount them on the back of the car, I'm going to put two up the front, one either side of these skid plates. So I'm just going to use some paint on the holes that I've drilled as well, just to make sure they don't rust. Okay, so you guys are going to want to use one flat washer on the bolt head, and then there's these little black plastic inserts. They just go into the Stedi rock light itself. Okay, then you put the bolt through, and then whichever way you want the wire to be coming out, put it up that way. And then on the other side, all you want to do is use the supplied nuts, and they're a nylock nut, okay? So you don't need to use any Loctite. The nylock nut is the Loctite, so they're good to go. So straight on, tighten them down, and you're done. Time to mount the brackets onto the chassis. So these are the brackets that I've made up, guys. You can obviously do whatever you want to do. You do not have to use these brackets. You can mount them onto the chassis or onto the body, in the wheel well, wherever the hell you want to go. This is just what I'm doing, guys. And you might want to put them into the chassis. So if you do, what I'm going to use is these parts here. So as you guys know, I am a massive fan of Nutserts, okay? So I've got my Nutsert tool here from H&B Warehouse on eBay. You can use the code JPCaptured to get a discount off that tool. And then I've got my Nutsert kit over here from H&B Warehouse as well. So what I'm going to be using is M6 Nutserts and a series of M6 bolts. Now I've got a spring washer and washer on those ones ready to go. So I've got a total of 8 here that I'm going to be using because I've got 4 brackets with 2 bolts each in them. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting those ones into the position that I want them to go in. But as I said, guys, this is just an idea of where I'm going to be mounting them. So you don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can mount them in the wheel well, the chassis, the body, the windows, wherever the hell you want. You can mount them to the freaking engine. Wherever you want light, guys, you can put it there. This is just how I'm going to be doing it and showing you what it is before and after and things like that. So just use this as a bit of a guide. Okay, so to use a Nutsert tool, it's super easy. Open it all the way up, screw the Nutsert on, put it into the pre-drilled hole. In this case, it's 9mm as per the guide. And just clamp all the way down. And then open it up. That's an automatic tool, so it makes things nice and easy. Check your thread to make sure it's all good. Good thing about these, if something does happen to them, they're very easy just to drill out. All you need to do is put another 9mm drill bit through that hole, through the center, and it will drill the whole thing out, and you can just put a new one in. So there's no need to worry about using them. They're really easy to use. Okay, so once you've done one, you can put your bracket in, grab yourself a marker, and then mark the next hole. Oh my God, he's drilling into his chassis. I know that's what you guys are thinking right now because it's crazy. I know, it's one of those things you always cringe when you see someone drilling into a chassis rail, and I don't blame you. It's kind of scary. But What it is, guys, what I'm doing here is I'm mounting on the brackets to position them where I want the light to shine. And there are some rules when drilling into a chassis. Generally speaking, you have to have the bolt holes no less than 50 millimeters apart from each other, and you can't have the holes that you've drilled anywhere between 40 mil from the top or the bottom of the chassis rail vertically. So you need to make sure that it's more central than anything, if that makes sense. Now, you can't have holes bigger than 17 millimeters drilled into the chassis either. It needs to be below 17 millimeters in size. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be sighted by an engineer. This could still mean that you need your engineer to certify any holes that you drilled into your chassis or any chassis modifications whatsoever. So this does vary state to state, guys. If you're worried about it, check with your engineer before drilling into your chassis. That is the best thing to do. Generally speaking, my logic behind drilling into the chassis is try not to do it, but if you are going to do it, fill the hole. So if you drill a hole in the chassis, fill it with something. I've put a Nutsert and a bolt in these holes, so structurally it has something in there. You don't have to use any Loctite on these ones because we've got spring washers on them. If it was just a bolt and a flat washer, then you'd use some Loctite on there. Put the rock light on, just do a bit of a test fitment, make sure everything's okay. Okay, so that's what we've ended up with. That's come up better than even what I thought it was going to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab the lead, the 5 meter lead. I'm just going to jump it up onto this factory harness up here, and then I'm just going to cable tie it along this factory harness all the way up into the engine bay, cross it over the firewall, the top of the firewall behind the engine, and jump over to the loom. And then I'm going to go over on the other side of the car and do the exact same thing, same spot, everything, and then we'll jump onto the front ones. What up? Alrighty guys, so I'm up to the front ones now. I'm thinking about grabbing this bracket and putting it roughly about there. I'm having a look at the camera to see what it looks like on the car because I can't actually see it. But yeah, that's probably about the position I'm going to try and aim for. Okay, how cool is that? We're almost there, guys. So that is the second last rock light now installed. Now, there's just the other side to do. So just got to jump on the other side of the vehicle, do the exact same thing, exact same position for me anyway, on the other side of the car. And that then wraps up the mounting of the rock lights. Then all it is just basically the finishing up the wiring in the engine bay and the switch in the cabin. And then we are done. And put it to the test, guys. All right, let's get stuck into the other side and then start wrapping things up with a bit of wiring. Rightio, so that's the rock lights now mounted on the passenger side. So that's the front one, that other one was the back one. Now I've also put conduit around all of the cabling underneath the car on both sides of the vehicle. So that's to protect it from the elements underneath the vehicle. So protect that cabling. In the engine bay, it's not so necessary, but under the car, definitely good idea to do something like that. Now I've cable tied these along the rail that we've got here, so that's the fuel rail just on the top of the chassis. So I've just cable tied it to that one there, and that's running all the way up into the engine bay where we'll finish off the wiring up in there now. And they're all coming out at sort of the same area in the engine bay. So that's from the driver's side of the vehicle, the wire's coming up here, and I've run it across the main harness on the back of the engine bay there, popping up from the chassis on the other side, and just zip tied it down to that main harness and tucked it behind the back so you can hardly see it. So that looks all right. And then I've got the control box just sitting there, which is also zip tied in. Found that to be probably one of the better spots for it, and I didn't have to drill any new holes and mount it in somewhere. So that was super easy. And then I've got these ones coming up from here. They are coming down from the passenger side of the chassis. So that's those ones there. And then I've got these ones over here which are coming up from the bull bar. So they give you a heap to work with. Obviously for bigger vehicles and things like that where you need the extra length, it's perfect. But for my setup, I didn't need it. So what I'm going to try and do to tidy things up a little bit so I don't have as much cable, like a bird's nest of cable just bunched up in the corner, I'm just trying to tape it up and create it, you know, make it a little bit tighter by just running some tape around it. I've done it with this one here. And then from there, I'll just try and neatly put it into the side of the engine bay in here. There's a little hollow spot where it's got nothing in there, and I should be able to make it look nice and tidy and tuck it away in there and zip tie it up out of the way. So I'll show you that once it's all done. Rightio guys, so I ended up tucking it up the back here instead of down in this corner. So basically I put all the wires, wrapped them up underneath and around the top of this loom, the main harness that runs on the back of the firewall, and taped it all up and then zip tied it in there, and then just ran the connectors out the end here. Now the fittings themselves do have a keyway in them, so there's a keyway in the bottom of that fitting, and same with this one, so they do go in a certain way. So just make sure you don't force them together if the keyway isn't lined up, because you could damage something. Once you've plugged it in, just screw the caps on, and that will push the rubber seal on the bottom there up against this face and creating a seal to help with waterproofing. Rightio, so it is time to get the switch into position, guys. I'm going to be using the center console area right here. So I've got 3 blank switch locations ready to go. Now, like everything in the Navara, this just clips out, guys. So just remove everything from your center console area because it will fly out when you unclip it. But just pull up on the actual center console section, and it's basically got a bunch of clips here on either side and 2 up the front, which just need to be pulled up to clip out, and it's as easy as that. And now we've got access to all 3 locations there. From the bottom, it's just got a couple of screws we need to take out to be able to take the plate off, and they just come straight off, and we can put our new switch straight into that location. I will address something while we're in here, because you're probably going to be wondering what's going on with all this stuff here. So I've got an extra stalk assembly here, and this is all off and everything. Disregard it, okay? Nothing to do with this install, guys. This is actually for an upcoming video with the fog lights on my Ironman bull bar. So instead of wiring in another switch for my vehicle, I went and got a stalk assembly from an STX model car. So this is great if you've already got an STX model, or just a model that has basically the fog light switch on the stalk here. So I've basically bought this one, I've plugged it in to test it, and it is working with the factory wiring harness, which is already there. So I can just wire it straight into my fog lights. I'll put that stalk in place of my factory one here, and they'll be working. So stay tuned for that video, because it's going to be nice and simple. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to take those screws out, get one of these clips out, whichever spot you want to use, put the new switch in, and then down here, this is the wire that we pulled through the firewall. Okay, so that's got the factory switch on there that Stedi supply. Nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine, and it's actually quite good because it's, you know, it's quite a hard switch to turn on and off, which is probably safer because you don't want the rock lights coming on the road. It is a legal issue. So that switch isn't bad. Having it in the center console, I have thought about the problems with, you know, possibly knocking the switch and things like that while I'm driving, but hey, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room, right? So I'm going to be disregarding this one, taking the wires though that are supplied on here, so these ones here, and I'm going to be wiring them directly into the new switch, and we'll be good to go, guys. Rightio guys, so that is everything done in the cab. We are done and dusted with that switch. All that's left to do now to complete the installation is connect the power wire and the earth wire to the battery, and then you can get outside and put these suckers to the test. Okay, so the installation's complete, guys. Now we need to start talking about the application that you need to use the rock lights on your vehicle. So for the Android guys, you need to go onto the Play Store, and for the iOS guys, you need to go onto the Apple Store and download an application called Happy Lighting, okay? Once you've downloaded it, open it up, and this is the main screen. This is the main screen of the application where all of the main stuff happens really with the rock lights. So top right hand corner, you've got some basic settings here. So you've got user guide, background, you can change the background of the Happy Lighting application. You can do some shake notifications, and there's a little bit of about information on the app itself. Top left hand corner, you've got your devices that you're connected to. This will do that automatically, so you don't have to worry about setting it up, but I've changed the device name to Rock Lights just so I know what's connected. And in the middle here, on the top of the screen, you've got your on and off. So basically when it's green, it's on. When it's not, it's off. That's for the rock lights. So you can turn them on and off from the application, which is pretty awesome as well. Below that, we've got our color wheel. So you can change your color wheel to some different types. And basically that color wheel is going to allow you to adjust the colors in real time on your vehicle. So the RGB rock lights are going to be adjusting in colors now on the car as I do that, so you can do a whole bunch of variety of different colors and bits and pieces. Below that, you've got your brightness settings, so you can dial that all the way down or halfway. Then below that, you've got some preset colors here, so you can run through those. These are probably some of the popular color options that the application's just put up on the front there. Below that, you've got some standard ones. So you've got your standard lighting there. Then you've got your RGB white, which in my opinion, the RGB white preset is probably one of my favorite for actually using the rock lights to do stuff off-road. So seeing what you know coming up against and stuff like that, that puts out one of the best light outputs in my opinion, and a good crisp light. So you can go through all those different presets as well down there on the standard features. Then below that, you've got your music adjustment there. So basically, if you click on that, you'll have to allow the device to connect to music, and that will basically, the rock lights will bounce and change color according to the music that you're playing. Same with tape. Basically, that's if you talk into the phone, you know, you're talking into it, it'll change based on what you're saying or singing or whatever you're into. Then you've got styles over here. So these are some preset styles. So you've got, you know, things like rainbow jumping and stuff like that. So you can roll down on the selection there. I've got a popular one here, which will be the red and blue flashing. So you can change the change plus or minus as well on the dial there to adjust the speed that they're going to be flashing and changing color. Then you've got timing on the end, which is basically allowing you to time your own settings and do your own setups for your rock lights and have them change color as you see fit. But basically all the main adjustments are happening right here on the main screen. Really user friendly, guys, super easy to use. Rightio guys, that is the install of the Stedi Rock Light kit now complete on my vehicle. And this came with absolutely everything in the box that I needed to install it straight onto the car. It was really straightforward, guys. I don't actually think there's anything that we really need to address that was difficult during this installation. It was all in there and it was all very straightforward. The application, as I showed you before when we were playing around with the rock lights, that's all super straightforward as well, guys. Works really nice, and you can select all your colors and different bits and pieces there. Now, these aren't very expensive either. I was surprised at how well priced these were when you compare them to some of the eBay kits that are more expensive, and they're nowhere near as good a quality as the Stedi products. So go figure on that one, guys. They're charging more for something that isn't as good. So definitely take a look at the Stedi kits. They're actually really affordable, and as you saw in the video, the quality is definitely there, guys. I'm really stoked that I finally got some rock lights on the car. I'm gonna get out in the tracks, I'm gonna put them to the test in a really dark situation and see how well they light up the surroundings around me and all the rocks and the ruts and all the things that you normally can't see, but now I'll be able to see with the rock lights. And it also goes for my spotters and people around me as well. They can see what's going on and they can maybe choose a different line. If I get stuck, they can see what happened and they can go around and get the hell out of there. So I'm really stoked. I've always wanted to do rock lights on my car, guys. I've finally done them, and now it's time to get out and test them. So that'll be in a video real soon for you guys. I'll make sure I put them to the test on a bit of a night drive. Maybe we'll do it after we do the rest of the Stedi gear. So I've still got light bar, I've still got driving lights to install, and we've got some rear reverse lights as well, some LED reverse lights, which should be pretty cool. That's an easy install that will knock out soon for you guys as well. Anyway, thanks a ton for watching. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, drop it a thumbs up for me. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below, guys. I'm happy to have a chat about anything down there. If you've got any questions, hit me up, I will reply. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys. Plenty more content coming your way really soon. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.